So math. I want to start with the obvious because we've been doing it for so many years, and sometimes I don't remember what you don't already know. So I sometimes make assumptions. So first of all, math is taught in Chinese at our school, and we, especially at the even the middle school level, but definitely at the PYP level, we follow the National Chinese Math Curriculum. What it means is that the students here in, say, 3rd grade, they learn from the same textbooks that a 3rd grade student in China learns. The exact same thing in Chinese and the same curriculum. There are certainly pros and cons, right? So I'm going to only tell you the pros. No. Well, first of all, the reason in the very beginning, we had a few options. It was not a default, right? So we're looking at Singapore math. You probably have heard about Singapore math. There's certainly, mainstream American math, and also Chinese math. And now, I would say probably about 10 years ago, there used to be only one Chinese math textbook for the whole of China. And then about 10 years ago, they opened up to a few more publishers, so there are a few to choose from. But there are still very limited numbers, and they're authorized by this Chinese government, and they're just equally good, right, in our mind. So we chose one, based on the advice at that time by our advisor, Dr. Ma Liping. If your child goes to our 1st grade or up, you probably have heard from your children that they're doing Ma Liping. So she is known here in the US as a creator or producer of this full set of Chinese learning materials, whereas her real expertise is actually in math. She is a math guru. So she, in the beginning of founding this school, she actually gave us an advice to choose which math curriculum. So we chose this one, and use it ever since. Now, there are 2 benefits, right? First of all, it's completely in Chinese, written for the usage of Chinese students or students in China. So to us, that really has the advantage of learning 2 at the same time, math and Chinese. And secondly, the advantages of learning math in Chinese, right, regardless of what specific curriculum or textbook that you use. Are you all familiar with the advantages of learning math in Chinese? No?
No.
You do? Okay, could you say a few? Or
one thing that I didn't connect until a parent said it to me maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago, a parent who spoke Chinese, is the way the Chinese language treats numbers. The way they say it is different, and I think it makes it easier for the kids to break them down when they have to do grouping and things like that, because of the way numbers are spoken in Chinese.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a key one. There are actually a number of handouts out there, and one of them is about learning math in Chinese, right? So that's one. So for example, there are only 9 number names in Chinese, whereas how many there are in English?
A lot.
Too many. So that in and of itself, that language itself already has this place value of 10 built in.
Can you give an example, like 15? Is 15 in English?
15 means 10, in Chinese is 10, 5.
So you actually say 10, 5.
Right, so 27 is 2, 10, 7. So that has it built in. So it's almost like a de facto that a student coming into kindergarten or 1st grade in China already not only fluent in counting, but has that built-in understanding of place value, this 10, you bundle 10 together and advance, inherent, right, to their understanding of numbers, how number works. And it may sound, minor and trivial, but it's not. That actually puts you in a real advantage when you do mental math, when you actually add things up and subtract, and that's already very natural, right, inherent to their understanding. But that's only one, right, sort of on the surface. Beyond that, and I would always like to give you that example of fraction, because in addition to numbering system, there is also at least a couple major differences from the mainstream math, how math is arranged or taught here in the US, and how concepts are arranged in what sequence in China. So I always give this example of fraction. So here in kindergarten, in a math lesson, mainstream math that is, students are exposed to, because they order pizza, or they have pizza ordered for them, and they learn about half, or 1/8 a slice, right? 8 slices put together, so each slice is 1/8, or half of a pie, or a quarter, in coins. So you learn all those names, and not necessarily with the understanding with it. What is a fraction? To them, it's only names: quarter, half, 1/8, 1/10. And the belief is that because they come across those names and therefore concepts early in life, then let's just tell them, have them use those words, right, as their daily conversation, in their daily language, but not in Chinese math. We do not talk about fraction at all. We do not expose our students to fraction at all until when? 3rd grade. After they learn about multiplication and division. Because that way, there is a way for them to attach that concept, that conceptual understanding properly to a system of math. So that it's not just a name. Because otherwise, you never know that what kind of association that they have to somehow create it in their own mind. It could be just an isolated floating concept out there. It's not a concept. They don't even know how it's really related to this whole number system until later on, and they may have to unlearn something, or forever just stuck in their mind that quarter is just the name of a coin, right? So, and also how we say fraction in Chinese also goes along with that system. So a quarter, 1/4, okay, I have to say it in Chinese first. It means out of 4 parts, you take 1. But I mean, in not that clumsy way, but in Chinese, 1/4. So every time you repeat that name, you're actually repeating to yourself the concept, right? Out of 4 parts, you take 1, or 3/4. 4/3, out of 4 parts, you take 3, right? So we're very careful with where to place a certain concept. So it's all about conceptual learning. And that's why we really we really feel that these are all coming together, the science piece, the math piece, and our unit of inquiry. It's really about the underlying, the enduring conceptual understanding. That's hugely important here. So that's conceptual and sequential versus spiral. Spiral meaning here in the US, they were exposed to many different names. I don't even want to say they're concepts because they're really being just introduced as names right here. And then they get spiral back. In 1st grade, they may learn something a little bit more about quarters and then fractions. And then 2nd grade and 3rd grade until they could really properly lodge in a place where it's in the continuum of division. But by that time, we feel that you really do not need to waste all the energy or exposure prior to that. So that actually free up more time and energy for us to go deeper into a concept. So when we introduce subtraction and addition and subtraction, these two always go together as reciprocal process. So we spend a lot more time learning the concept properly, deeply, and with fluency. So that's in the gist, to me, the advantage of Chinese math over mainstream math. in addition to the naming system, yes.
To make the connection to language, I also find this to be a problem in the way that the U.S. system teaches speaking of a second language, because you have a lot of placeholding of language, and then you don't seem to really, in many, many cases, ever get a child to get a second language. So whether that's because we don't really want the child to have a second language or not is never really clearly defined, but it doesn't really happen until such a late point in the conversation that it's sort of unclear about that, right? So I think that's an interesting connection to the language, because if you really want a second language, the time to teach it is in this way, right? And yet it doesn't happen, so.
Yeah, definitely earlier the better, yes. And also teachers' role here.
Sorry, I just wanted to add also with the math, the fact that, it starts from VLP and preschool, where they start counting physically, how many kids are in today, how many girls, how many boys. Already, I see Scarlett trying to figure that out. There are these many girls, these many boys, and the foundations are put in at a much younger age.
Yeah, that's a very nice segue into teachers' role. Teachers who grew up, but that's perfect. Teachers grew up or educated in China or Taiwan, in this math system. That math is built inside of us. So we see math everywhere. That's a very natural tendency. So to Pooja's point, the counting and who's missing, how many is missing, are there more missing or late, tardy parents, or then on time? A lot of those, it comes so naturally. Categorization, graph, and then always count, forward, backward, count on. You don't always start from 1, 2, 3. Let's count on from 5. 5, 6, because why? That's how later on we introduce addition. 5 plus 3, then you count on from 5, right? 5, then 6, 7, 8, right? There's so many other ways, and they're all, very sequential, very systematic and purposeful. And that's what we really love about, having the privilege or opportunity to teach math completely in Chinese. And we're not really seeing that possible anywhere else. So nowhere else.
But my son's in 4th grade and he has the same concepts already in English. I don't have anything to do with Chinese. But if I would write a problem down in English, he has no problem solving it, and quite the contrary. Any problem, and it's amazing to see what he does in 3rd and 4th grade without being a strong math student, was what I would say. I loved math, and it's hard to see him not like it so much, but he knows so much more in 3rd and 4th grade than what I knew in 3rd and 4th grade, and I enjoyed it. So it's because it's simplified. It's so, you're right. It's the way they learn it. Yes, that's exactly it. They don't have to struggle to understand the concept because it flows so naturally.
Yeah, it does take place sort of naturally. We don't know how they, in their brains, bridge the gap.
Yeah.
But somehow it does take place.
Yeah.
They do transfer.
They do.
Also, the teachers in this school they studied math in Chinese. They're well educated. Whereas based on my research, a lot of public school teachers could potentially hate math and yet teach it to your kids. And then it's hard to inculcate that love of math. So I feel like our teachers, having been through the system and learned it the right way, can impart that knowledge on our kids. Wow.
Right. Thank you so much. And I would just like to end this formal portion of the presentation, and you're welcome to stay on, by one last statement about what parents can do to help, right? And nowadays, there's a lot of anxiety about, constantly having to see proof of something that's working. I mean, it's natural. I'm not saying it in any negative way. We naturally have expectations, and it's good to have high expectations. So I really see this opportunity as a way for us to work out partnerships. And over the years, we have found as teachers, the kind of support that we really would love to see from home is, in many ways and at several levels. So for example, the units of inquiry, teachers usually share with you what's coming, right? In either a parent letter or somehow in weekly updates, what's coming in terms of units of inquiry. And there are a description of key concepts. There are also, sometimes examples of activities. Key concept, now you know, that's really at the core of this 21st century learning. If they don't, because there are gonna be gaps of knowledge, of data, of information, and that's okay. The underlying key concepts is what unites all of that, across subjects. So do try to find ways to talk to your child in your native language. It doesn't have to be Chinese or English. In your native language, to talk about those concepts in everyday life. If you could open your eyes and help your child do it, and sometimes it's the other way around, your child helps you open your eyes to all these possible connections, with key concepts. That's a great way to help your child and lower your anxiety, knowing that, that's what counts. First, and secondly, to really echo Randy's point, do not make the nightly reading experience a battle or a quiz. Because usually when your child starts first or second grade, you would have that really tendency to say, okay, you are really supposed to know this now. I've been reading the same book with you, for a week. So you would have that tendency of, let me stop at this page and you're going to pick it up. Or I stop at this word and you're supposed to fill it in. After a while, it takes really no time to kill their enthusiasm or love of spending that time, quality time with you. So I think it's hugely important for you to model that it's an enjoyable experience.
Just on the reading, just a quick question. If you're, Rebecca's in kindergarten, so if we're reading the book and she gets stuck on a character, do I just fill it in for her? Or do I make her stop and look at it and try to work it out for herself?
It depends on the purpose of that reading. If it's part of the homework, then that's a different thing. I'm talking about the nightly reading that you do with your child. Yeah. However enjoyable it makes, you know your child better, you have your own routines. Even put on an audiobook. That's how it works for my child, because I do not read to my child in English. I do that in Chinese, but to just make sure that they have that narrative voice, to Randy's point, in their head, we listen to audiobooks together. So it took us more than a year to listen to the whole series of Harry Potter, and had tremendous enjoyment and a lot of fun. Just fun, and it's gonna be in their head. So that's the reading. And also math. A lot of parents then started becoming very cautious about, let me not teach my child the wrong way of doing math, right? And then they kept wanting to know, how do you teach your Chinese math? I want to know so I can also do the same Chinese way with my child. There's no need to do that. If you love math, if you truly enjoy math, like I really find math everywhere and interesting, share that love. Right? You could see anywhere. Just do it your way. That's the authentic way anyways. But try not to go to so technical detail of, okay, I'm going to sit by you. You're going to show me how you do this math. Or why is it all wrong? Let me reteach you. If they struggle with math homework, if they struggle with any kind of homework, you could do some sort of teaching that's common sense. I'm not binding you to say that no. But do it to a reasonable extent, right? Beyond that, first of all, you need to know that they're not supposed to be able to do every single question on a homework worksheet. Sometimes that's applying in new context. Other times it's just a natural learning process that they do make mistakes, right? The teachers need to know, right? The teachers do not need to see perfect worksheets. They need to know where your child struggles in certain areas, so we could differentiate, we could reteach, we could reinforce. And maybe the majority of the class didn't get it the first round, so the teachers need to know to repeat that class, right? So use common sense. Sometimes when we, in the moment of anxiety, we just, sort of, okay, I need to make sure that my child just, follows every step, okay?